Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast, and welcome to your TNA Impact post show, man. And there is a lot to talk about and really dissect with this entire show, their debut episode on AMC. And we're going to actually do things a little bit different, man. I'm not going to go through the full rundown of the show. I did see parts of the show, but I just want to give you guys my thoughts on it, how I feel about the show, and the future as far as whether we're going to be covering TNA or not. I really wanted to talk about that with you guys as well. So let's just start off with the show itself, man. Obviously, this was a big deal for TNA, obviously, in the powers that be that, control TNA. This was a big deal. I mean, this was the first time that TNA has had a decent or predominant TV role since their glory days that they had on Spike TV, if you guys go as far back as I do, with the TNA product. And back in the day, man, as far as I'm concerned, when they were on Spike TV in the early days of TNA, it was probably some of the best wrestling out there. Obviously, TNA has made stars in itself, from the likes of AJ Styles to Samoa Joe to Christopher Daniels, and so on and so forth. And obviously, a lot of things changed with TNA. The landscape has changed over the years, from the times of Jeff Jarrett, from the times of Dixie Carter, which we will talk about here in a little bit. And obviously, times has evolved for the TNA product. They had some talent that have come and gone on to other places, such as AJ Styles. He's went from TNA over to WWE and really revamped his career, if you will. Same thing with Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe went over to WWE, and now he's currently wrestling under the AEW umbrella, and so on and so forth. There was a lot that happened last night that really, to be honest with you, made me kind of be like, what the hell, to be honest with you. Like I said, I'm going to not completely throw shade on TNA and certain things about the show that, I can understand and appreciate. I appreciate the fact that TNA is still around. They've had some highs and a lot of lows. If you guys have watched the TNA product from the OG days till now, obviously you can see the projection, how TNA has played out over the years. Like I said, they've had some high highs and some low lows. I'm happy that TNA was able to secure a TV rights deal and to be on a predominant cable network such as AMC for the foreseeable future to showcase TNA's product. Because, before TNA ended up signing this deal with, AMC, a lot of TNA's product was being showed on Access TV, or they were also being shown on Twitch. So they really didn't have a predominant TV rights deal for a long period of time. And a lot of people don't get Access TV. It's not for every single cable provider that's out there. So I'm happy for TNA in that aspect, that they have a TV rights deal that a lot of people now can actually watch TNA's product. But like I said, there was a lot of things about the show I didn't like, which we're going to get into in a second. But I also want to be transparent with you guys. I told you guys, even when I did my Dynamite upload for Maximum Carnage the other day, I told you guys, and like I told you before, man, I'm going to keep it as real as I possibly can, man. I'm not going to sugarcoat shit. I told you guys that I think TNA is going to be on the heels of AEW. And that still could happen, but I'm going to tell you right now, after what I saw last night and what I saw at Transponder last night, it's going to be a very long time before TNA is even on the heels of AEW. Which I will own that and take ownership of that, with me saying that I thought they were going to be on the heels of AEW. After what I saw last night, there ain't no goddamn way in hell they're going to be on the heels of AEW anytime soon. Secondly, I don't take back what I said about Tony Khan. I think the whole thing with TNA, it did shake Tony Khan to his core. Hence the reason why he has been hiring out the wazoo former TNA talent that used to work with TNA or work in the confines of TNA, whether it be Jake something, whether it would be the Rascals that he just literally signed the other night, or other future talent that he might be looking into acquiring that used to be from TNA. So I still think the whole TNA concept did kind of rattle Tony Khan, and I still believe Tony Khan will be looking into signing more TNA talent. I honestly, genuinely believe that Tony Khan is not done with signing former TNA talent. I think he's going to overload the roster even more and acquire more TNA talent, so those talents can't go back to the confines of TNA. With that being said, And like I said, I want to be full transparent. I don't think TNA is on the heels of AEW. I just don't. I think there's a lot of things with TNA, and after what I watched last night, and trust me when I tell you this, I am not the only person that's going to be saying this right here, right now. What we saw last night with TNA's product on AMC, night one, their debut episode on AMC, TNA last night was an absolute and utter embarrassment. It was an absolute joke. I don't know what the hell happened. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, hey, Mr. Classic, they had a lot of visa issues with certain talents and stuff like that, and a lot of talents couldn't show up. Bro, this whole damn thing, for them to be on AMC, was already in the making for a while. This wasn't something that just dropped out of somebody's hat. They knew that this was going to be January 15th. They knew they were going to debut on the 15th on AMC. They should have got their shit in order. I mean, Christ, bro, even the production of this show was so fucking bad. I mean, it literally looked like someone shot this damn show from somebody's iPhone. It was so goddamn bad. The audio was horrible. The production was horrible. And it's like, wow, man, you guys had all this time to prepare yourselves to debut TNA on AMC, and the production was absolutely fucking horrible. Seriously, and I'm not the only one saying it, bro. There's honestly, and I was actually shocked because there's a lot of content creators out there, and you guys know who they are, that really sugarcoat shit just to try to get in the good graces of Tony Khan or Triple H or somebody running, the show over in TNA, or hell, even Scott D'Amore. There's a lot of people out there that like to sugarcoat shit and rub shoulders with, these people to try to get in their good graces. But some of those people actually, which I was shocked, actually had a different mindset after watching TNA's product last night. Those same people that sugarcoat shit had the same reaction that I'm having, and some other people within the community are having as well. That show last night was fucking horrible. And it was a pure ass embarrassment. It really was. There was so much shit wrong with it. I mean, example number one, like I said, the production was absolutely horrible. The audio was absolutely horrible for this show. And then we get, like I said, visa issues with talent. Talent couldn't show up to be a part of the show. There was even a match that was pulled. That was a championship match. I believe it was an X Division match for Leon Slater. Now, Leon Slater was not booked. He was booked for that show. They scrapped the match. Genesis is coming up on Saturday. He's not wrestling on that card as well. And from what it looks like something probably happened backstage between the powers that be in TNA and Leon Slater, which I don't really understand it. I understand he might have had a visa issue, but you can't resolve that by Saturday when this show was on Thursday for you to be at Genesis? It's a little ironic. And then we're bringing in talent from God knows where. I mean, hell, bro, Sonya Deville, who used to be a former WWE talent, showed up at TNA last night to pretty much play the same role that she had in WWE before she ended up leaving, which pretty much is an on-air GM with Santino Marella, or Morello, or whatever the hell his name is, to be an on-air GM for TNA. This show was absolutely fucking horrible. Then we get to start off the show, we have AJ Styles, which again, the house that he helped build, and AJ Styles really didn't say a goddamn thing. He really didn't say shit. And then he had a backstage, not even a segment, but stared down Frankie Kazarian when Kazarian was holding at the time the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. So, I don't know what AJ's plans are. I know there's been some rumors and speculation that AJ is going to have a match in TNA, and do I believe he should? Yeah. If this is AJ Styles' last year as far as being an in-ring competitor, then absolutely he should have a match in TNA. I also, like I stated earlier, Mike Santana threw shots at AEW when they sat down between himself and Frankie Kazarian for the contract signing and said that they were stuck in AEW hell. Look, bro, at the end of the day, I respect the hell out of Mike Santana. I think Mike Santana is great and severely underrated. But not for nothing, bro. As far as in-ring talent, in-ring ability, you can't sit here and tell me what we saw in TNA last night was any better than what we saw in AEW. Not even fucking close. It just wasn't. And then on top of that, the icing on the goddamn cake was they brought out Dixie Carter to literally squash the beef that I guess that she had or Bully Ray had, so they can reconcile right there on AMC so they can hug it out and finally squash their beef. And she got booed out of the fucking building. So let's look at that situation with Dixie Carter here for a second. Number one, you bring out this woman to TNA's debut episode on AMC, which if you guys go back to see when Dixie Carter was running TNA, she almost killed TNA. From financial status to filing pretty much bankruptcy almost, she almost put TNA out of fucking business. And not for nothing, with all due respect to Mr. Bully Ray, why are we running this back and trying to squash some kind of bullshit that probably happened in the mid to late 2010s? Like, honestly, with all due respect, who really gives a shit about you wanting to squash a beef with somebody who literally almost killed TNA? You know what I mean? That really hasn't been a part of TNA in quite some time, as far as being a predominant figure in TNA. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck are we doing here? And you had also matches last night, the Iconics. Former WWE talent. They were part of, I believe they were the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champions. They dropped the belts last night, and then TNA was like, see you later. So they're no longer employed with the company. They're losing talent out the wazoo, bro. They are. To facilitate them to be on AMC. I think last night was a pure ass embarrassment. To be honest with you. I think it was an absolute fucking joke. And I couldn't stand it. I honestly couldn't stand it. And I don't know. I know some people are going to say, it was their first show, bro. Give them a chance. Give them a chance. Bro, we're already dealing with enough as it is with AEW Dynamite and the way they book their shows. With the fact that we're not getting storylines, we're getting lack of creative. But my God, bro, at least I'll give AEW the benefit of the doubt. At least they're putting on banger matches. What did we see last night that was absolutely a banger match? Because I'm going to be honest, with all due respect to Mike Santana, that wasn't a 5-star match that he had with Frankie Kazarian for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. It wasn't. The Hardys teaming up with Elijah in that 6-man tag team matchup, it wasn't a banger match. And not for nothing, I feel like the Hardys are really the main two people right now carrying this company on their fucking back. To be honest with you, if you see the commercials for TNA's debut episode on AMC, it was pretty much all about the goddamn Hardys. Honestly. And not for nothing, who really gives a rat's ass about a Frankie Kazarian? Let's be honest, bro. I'm going to keep it a buck, man. With all due respect to Mike Santana, who really gives a shit about Frankie Kazarian? Him saying that he was stuck in AEW hell or AEW purgatory, bro, what were you really doing in AEW to really say that you were a standout star within the confines of AEW? Because if we're going to go back to the SCU days, or whatever the hell you want to call it, that stable that they had between Scorpio Sky and Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, not for nothing, the one that stood out the most out of all three of those guys at that time was Scorpio Sky. And where do we see Scorpio Sky now? You know what I'm saying? And that was at the early stages of AEW, the first 3 years of their existence, when they were working in TBS and TNT. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand trying to go to bat for your company and try to, stand on business and represent your company. I understand that, bro. But don't sit here and tell me that what they did last night surpassed what AEW's been doing. It was fucking worse. So like I said, I'll be fully transparent, and I will go out of my way and apologize when I said, oh yeah, TNA is going to be on the heels of AEW. Not after what I saw last night. And that's all me. I'll take full ownership of that shit. There ain't no goddamn way that TNA is even close to what AEW is doing. And kudos to Tony Khan. And don't get me wrong, I think the TNA thing shook him up. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if those talents are leaving TNA, yeah, he's going to acquire those talents. TNA right now, if we're looking at the narrative with TNA and after what we saw last night, and that's the same shit we're going to continue to keep getting, TNA ain't got a shot in hell. Not a snowball's chance in hell to be the number 2 wrestling company in the country. Or in the world, for that matter. Not a fucking chance. That was a pure ass embarrassment, bro. Literally. And then you have certain wrestlers, or one wrestler individually, and he knows who he is, calls out the wrestling community just saying, well, I don't understand the criticism, or you guys can't criticize this because you guys don't do it. Not for nothing, bro. When people watch movies, and you buy a movie, whether it's on Prime or whatever have you, or you rent a movie, and you're like, you know what, that movie is kind of shitty. Yeah, you're going to criticize it because you spent $30, $40 on watching the goddamn shit. People are going to have opinions, bro. There's so many people, even wrestlers nowadays, bro. It's just like, damn. You're going to have an opinion. Because those same fans that are having those opinions are the same fans that are spending their hard-ass working money to buy your pay-per-views, to spend money on your TNA subscription to watch your pay-per-views. So you damn right they're going to have some criticism over that shit, and rightfully so, bro. Absolutely. That shit, when and they know who they are, and you guys know who that person was. And when I heard about that shit, bro, it pissed me off to no end. Well, they can't criticize it because they never stepped in a square circle. Okay, but you're also telling those same people not to say shit and to watch your product and then pay their hard-ass working money to buy your product so it can facilitate you guys still having a place to work. Hence pay-per-view buys. Hence your TNA Plus subscription. And they're saying, oh, well, let's wait till next week. Bro, a lot of the people that watched that shit last night are fucking done and gone. The people that I talk to that are in the community, they're done with TNA. Because it was an insult, and it was a slap in the goddamn face. Like I said, when I mentioned about Dixie Carter, who gives a fuck about trying to make amends in a relationship between Bully Ray and Dixie Carter now? Who gives a shit, bro? Honestly. And people are like, oh, I wonder why she got booed out of the fucking building. The reason why her ass got booed out of the damn building is because that sole person right there almost killed TNA. That's why. Overpaid contracts to glorified legends that weren't doing shit. The fact that, from what I understand, when they were done with Spike TV, Spike TV had offered him, what was it, anywhere from $10 to $16 million to run it back. I think that was for, a yearly basis? And they said no. They were in financial ruins because of Dixie Carter, bro. They were in debt. They almost filed Chapter 6 or Chapter 7 bankruptcy because of the fact that she couldn't handle the financials of the situation. She almost took this company and flushed it down the fucking toilet. So when people are like, well, I don't understand why they booed her out of the building. She's a TNA legend. She represents TNA. Yeah, that same person that you're saying was a legend for TNA and represents TNA was the same person that damn near flushed that whole company down the fucking toilet. It's an absolute joke, bro. You know what I'm saying? I can understand if Bully Ray wanted to be there to be on commentary for the main event. Sure, no problem, bro. But to try to reconcile a relationship that happened years and years ago that, quite frankly, nobody else really gives a shit about, do that on your own fucking personal time, bro. You know what I mean? Invite her on Busted Open radio and have a public apology or some shit. Or behind closed doors. Nobody gives a shit about you doing this on TNA's debut episode on AMC. Get the fuck out of here. Really. This shit was a joke, man. This was an absolute shit show, to be honest with you. And you wonder why people, other content creators, have vented their frustrations because this was an absolute utter waste of fucking time. And like I said, I respect the hell out of Mike Santana. I really do. And I can understand and appreciate the fact that that guy is willing to go to bat for his company. Go right ahead, bud. I respect the hell out of you for it. But for those out there that are saying, oh, well, they shouldn't have criticism for TNA, bro, that show last night fucking sucked. It absolutely sucked. And the thing of it is, and I'm also going to say this too, TNA knew what the fuck was going down. They knew that they had their debut on the 15th of AMC. You had all this time to plan, bro. You got one shot to get your point across. One shot to make an impact, literally. To get people talking about the fact that TNA is back on AMC and the fact that TNA is now on a cable syndicated network. One shot. And you guys dropped the fucking ball, bro. This wasn't no grand slam. Hell, this wasn't even a home run. Or a ground rule double. This was a glorified foul ball. Seriously. They dropped the fucking ball. And I don't know who the hell's running the show there. I think it's Carlos Silva or whoever the hell it is that's running the show there, bro. You should be embarrassed. You should be absolutely embarrassed. And not for nothing, your roster is depleting right now, bro. You lost the Rascals. The Iconics are gone. Jake Something, who's gone, which I don't know what the hell y'all were doing with him, bro, because not for nothing, that guy could have been TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and you dropped the fucking ball with him. That guy is an Impact player, and now he's in AEW right now, and he's the new #1 contender for the AEW Tag Team Championships with him and Mark Davis taking on FTR. You guys dropped the ball with that guy. The Iconics. I'm not against AEW signing them because right now Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale need challengers and competitors to go up against to defend those women's AEW Tag Team Championship titles. So by all means, bring them in. You know what I mean? You have other female talent that was in TNA that are also on their way out. Bring them in. Why not, bro? It's AEW's gain at this point. Absolutely. So like I said, I'll be fully transparent when I said, oh yeah, TNA is on the heels of AEW. No, they're not. And that's on me. Like I told you guys, man, I'm as real as they come. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And on that one, I was 100% wrong. Especially after what I saw last night. There ain't no goddamn way, bro, they're even remotely close to what AEW was doing. Not a fucking chance. Last night was a pure ass embarrassment. I mean, even the production, bro, it was so goddamn bad. Those camera angles were absolutely horrendous. Seriously, man. I've seen independent wrestling shows with better coverage than this shit. Better audio. And that's saying a lot. Because they don't have the money and the resources of, an AEW or now a TNA with millions of dollars that they can fork out. It was an absolute and utter embarrassment, man. Oh, wait till next week. For what? Same shit? Same shit. Rinse and fucking repeat. You can't even put on banger matches right now, bro. At least I'll give AEW that. They might not have no goddamn story or any kind of creative, but at least they're putting on decent goddamn matches. Come on, bro. Like, honestly, man, it's an absolute and utter fucking joke. And like I said, for me, the icing on the cake was Dixie Carter. Who gives a shit about that, bro? Seriously. And with all due respect to Bully Ray, bro, if you wanted a reconcile with Dixie Carter or some shit like that, you do it behind closed doors, or you know what? Why don't you invite her on an episode of Busted Open Radio and see if you guys can reconcile on that shit? You know what I'm saying? And instead of wasting TV time of reconciling some relationship that you wanted to reconcile on that happened 10, 15 fucking years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, get the fuck out of here, man. And then people, like I said, I don't understand why we're booing Dixie Carter, because that same woman literally almost flushed TNA down the fucking toilet. That's why they're booing. She almost killed the goddamn company. It was almost as bad as seeing Jeff Jarrett. Like, come on, man. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Seriously, what are we doing here? So, because of all that, and the other thing that I wanted to talk with you guys about, and like I said, I want to be 100% transparent, I want to talk about the future of TNA as far as me covering it on this podcast. So, I spent some time thinking about it, and thought about the entire show, and everything else that came with it. So this is what's going to happen. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be covering TNA's product. I'm just not, bro. And I hate to disappoint y'all, man, if you guys were looking forward to it, and I do apologize sincerely for that. There's no way I'm covering TNA's product, man. I'm not, for multiple reasons. And I'm not going to sit here and completely point the finger at TNA. A lot of people that are doing what I'm doing, that are content creators, putting out content for pro wrestling, a lot of people, not just myself, but other people that are involved in doing this, are also having a hard time uploading content for AEW, because sometimes it seems like it's the same goddamn thing. Rinse and fucking repeat every single week. And not for nothing, bro, sometimes it's like, damn, you're wishing for some change. You're wishing for something different, something better. I thought I was going to get that with TNA. And after what I saw last night, bro, there is no chance in hell that I'm even remotely interested in covering TNA. I'm sorry, and I do apologize, man, but there is no way that I'm covering TNA's product. I'm not. And not for nothing, if I could even go back in the Rolodex of time, man, and I think I've said something about this either this week or last week or the week prior to that I've gone through these different companies, bro, where I've tried to promote their product, I've watched their product, I've reviewed their product, whether it be old school stuff, like, my old throwback stuff that I did for WCW and NWA, and then covered NWA Power and United Wrestling Network Primetime Live. And I remember telling you guys, it might have been this week or last week, that I remember watching United Wrestling Network Primetime Live for NWA, bro, and it literally it was deflating, man. I couldn't take it anymore. I was not happy. I hated the way they ran it. I did not like the way they ran that show over there, and it's why I still don't cover NWA now. I'm just not a fan of the product, and I'm not going to sit there every single week and watch a product that is just it's pretty much takes the life from you, man. Really, it's so deflating. It's nauseating as all hell. And the one thing that I've told myself is that I'm not going to sit here week in and week out and watch a product that literally just makes me miserable or not even remotely invested or nor interested in watching the product just to put a review out just for content. I'm not going to waste my goddamn time. I'm just not. And, you know, people, like I said, are already venting their frustrations with AEW, myself included. But I literally had watched AEW since the very beginning. I've been with AEW for basically 6 years now. And I've watched every show. I've watched every pay-per-view and invested a lot into AEW's product just from pay-per-view buys alone. And yes, at times it can be beyond goddamn frustrating to watch their product, and sometimes you want to pull your goddamn hair out because there's no story, there's lack of creative. But after what I watched last night, man, it literally just gave me NWA Power, United Wrestling Network, Primetime Live vibes, and I just can't do it. I was 100% miserable, bro. Like, you guys have no idea, man. That's why I stopped doing NWA, is because I was absolutely miserable. I hated the product. I hate the way it was presented. I hated the way the matches went. The production was just horrible. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And after watching TNA last night, bro, I'm like, there's no way in hell that I'm going to put myself through that again and watching a product that, one, is just remotely I'm just not interested in and I give a shit less about, and two, something that is just going to be absolutely just nauseating to watch. And look, yeah, things might change for TNA. Great. Awesome. And if they do, great for TNA. That's not going to pull me back into watching TNA's product. I'm just not interested. I'm not. And I thought I was, bro. I told you guys, maybe I got too excited. I'm like, oh yeah, TNA's, got a TV rights deal. I think a lot of people got excited. I think a lot of content creators got excited and was like, you know what, it's going to give TNA a chance to see what happens. But I can tell you right now, man, after what happened last night, I just cannot get behind this product. I just can't. I think with TNA, and while I respect what they're trying to do, I really do. But a lot of shit with TNA, it's just changed, bro. I remember when Scott D'Amore came in, and he was able to bring back the old TNA Impact logo and the old, TNA stuff and try to bring, some life back into TNA. And then eventually Scott D'Amore pretty much got kicked out. And then TNA was working with, WWE, and Scott went on and made his own promotion with MLP Wrestling, Maple Leaf Pro, and he's doing great things over in Maple Leaf Pro. He's even working now with AEW and Ring of Honor. They're doing their Global Wars, which I think is pretty cool. For the Global War stuff for Ring of Honor. But I can't get behind this product, man. I just can't. I really can't. And again, I will be full transparent. I thought TNA was going to be on the heels of AEW. I said that the other day. I even said that TNA had shook, Tony Khan to his core. And for that, yeah, I still believe that the TNA kind of shook him up and probably scared the hell out of him a little bit, because he's like, oh shit, now we got TNA. Hence the reason why he's been signing former TNA talent. But honestly, with all due respect to TNA, I don't think AEW has anything to worry about when it pertains to the production or the promotion of TNA. I just really don't. I don't think they have the talent to facilitate what they're trying to do. I don't think they have the storylines to really facilitate what they're trying to do. I don't even think they have the production value to really facilitate what they're also trying to do. I just don't. The show last night felt half-assed. It felt like it was just literally slapped together out of thin air. And I quite frankly, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why Dixie Carter was there. Yeah, you've seen Sonya Deville. Looks like she's back in a GM role. Now she's going to be beefing with Santino, trying to be the on-air GM or trying to work with Santino. It's just, I don't know, bro. It's not there for me. And it's a shame, bro, because at one time, I can honestly, genuinely tell you that I was actually, back in the day, I was excited for TNA's product. When they had the roster they did, and we're talking about Styles, we're talking about Joe, we're talking about Angle, we're talking about Abyss, we're talking about Christian Cage, Even I would even give props to Jeff Jarrett at that time. And the roster they had back then, bro. LAX. You know what I mean? Santana Ortiz, Eddie Kingston at one time. Hell, even LA Knight wrestled for TNA. Bobby Lashley, EC3. Just to name a few talents that wrestled in the confines of TNA. It was a great product back in the day, bro. Christopher Daniels. The whole X division. Shelley and Sabin. The Motor City Machine Guns. Hell, at one time, even the Young Bucks wrestled for them as Generation Me. They had a solid stable. I mean, hell, till this day, no bullshit, I think the run, well, and not only that, even Sting, which I'll get to in a second, but Kurt Angle, in my honest opinion, to me, that was the best Kurt Angle that I've ever seen ever wrestle, was when he was in the confines of TNA, when he was doing the whole main event mafia shit. The matches he had with Abyss, Samoa Joe, and just the matches overall that he had within the confines of TNA, it really revamped his career. And they were allowing Kurt Angle to do whatever the hell he wanted. Matches he had with AJ Styles. I mean, Kurt Angle had some amazing matches and moments working under the confines of TNA. And then you look at someone like Sting. Sting, again, kind of revamped his career also in TNA. And a lot of people got excited for Sting. And Sting did a hell of a job working over in TNA. RVD is another one. Hell, Jeff Hardy. He's had a couple stints in TNA. Some good, some bad, some great. But again, also revamped his career. Matt Hardy, same thing. You know what I mean? So there's been talents that have walked in and out of TNA that really made a name for themselves working in the confines of TNA. I mean, look at AJ Styles, bro. He's a prime example of what TNA had offered at one time. He's pretty much the face that created that place, pretty much. I mean, it's shocking to see, and I get how things do change, man. Not everything's going to stay the same. I understand that. But just because things change, and I said the same thing about AEW, just because we change some shit up, doesn't mean we progressively have to get fucking worse. And with TNA, I just feel like it's... After what I watched last night, bro, it just seems like TNA is trying to do their best to hold on to something that's just not there. It's just not. And like I said, I understand Mike Santana, and I respect the hell out of Santana. I really do. But I just feel like it's not the same product, man. And they're trying to do whatever they can to keep this company alive. And it's just, man, like it's honestly depressing as all hell. It really is. And again, I hope the best for TNA. I really do. I hope they're able to succeed. I hope they're able to stick around for a very long time. As far as them being the number 2 wrestling company in the world, there's no chance. Especially not right now, bro. It's going to take them a very long time, in my opinion, for them to even remotely be in the conversation as being a number 2 wrestling company in the world. I think AEW's got that spot. Whether we like Tony Khan or not, and we all have our own gripes over AEW and how it's being booked and how it's, there's no creative and no storylines. Besides all that shit, at the end of the day, AEW is the number 2 wrestling company in the world, whether we like it or not. And not for nothing, you can look at even NWA at this point, bro, pretty much maybe even being the 3rd best wrestling company in the States. And I'm not trying to shit on TNA because of what happened last night, bro, but I put TNA right there with NWA's product that's being run by Billy Corgan, to be honest with you. There's not much of a difference, bro. Yeah, Billy Corgan and NWA don't have a TV rights deal, and it's on the Roku channel, but not for nothing. NWA was great when they were on YouTube on 6:05 p.m. Eastern on every single Tuesday. You know what I mean? It worked, it gelled perfectly for them, and they had a solid roster. You know what I mean? Now you have people on TNA's product that are having a match on their debut episode, and then they have that match, and then, yeah, hit the road, see you later, like the Iconics. I mean, hell, look what happened to Leon Slater, bro. Yeah, he missed out on the debut episode on AMC, but now he's not even going to be a part of Genesis. And he's your, I believe, X Division champion? Come on, bro. Like, what the fuck is going on, man? Really? What is going on? So, at the end of the day, like I said, man, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I apologize to you guys, man. Full disclosure, I did say that, I was thinking about covering TNA's product. It wasn't a for sure thing, but I was thinking about it. And I will apologize by also saying that I thought TNA was going to be on the heels of AEW. There's no way in hell that's happening. But I also want to apologize and just let you guys know once again that there is no way then I'm covering TNA's product, bro. Not a absolute fucking chance. Not a snowball chance in hell. No way. I thought it was a pure ass embarrassment, not only to professional wrestling, an embarrassment to the company that has been around for a long ass time now, to put on what they put on last night. It was an absolute shit show. And I don't know who's exactly running the show there. I don't. But it was absolutely horrific. And yeah, there were certain content creators that were in attendance last night, and they know who they are. Those are the people that, no matter what, are still going to kiss the ass of these people to try to rub shoulders with these people to get in the good graces of these people to be involved in the post shows and all this other shit. That are going to say the product's great and not even being truthful or honest with their fan base. Just so they can rub shoulders with these people to get in the good graces of these people. These people don't give a shit about you. As long as you're putting out their content to make their company look good, they're going to constantly and continuously kiss your ass. And that's exactly what it is, and that's why those people were invited to the TNA debut episode on AMC, and they know exactly who they are. Pretty much yes men. Or yes women that are going to sugarcoat shit just to get clicks. And for those people that are doing that, shame on you, bro. Shame on you. Absolutely shame on you. It's an absolute embarrassment. At least be honest. You know what I mean? Like I am today, bro. I'll admit that I was in the wrong. That I said that TNA was on the heels of what AEW is doing. And I told you guys, I was in the wrong. Like I told you, I'm one of the realest ones that are doing this, bro. If I'm wrong, I will say I'm wrong. And I was 100% wrong. Because there ain't no way in hell they're close to what AEW is doing right now. No shot. So I was wrong. Now, was I 100% wrong with TNA probably shaking up Tony Khan? Probably not. Because the proof's in the pudding. Look on the fact that he has signed former TNA talent. It probably did startle Tony Khan a little bit. To a point where he's like, you know what? Let me hire some of this former TNA talent so they don't go back to TNA. And like I said, there's talents that they had that they dropped the ball with. The Rascals dropped the ball. Big time dropped the ball. Jake something dropped the fucking ball. I don't understand why they let a guy like that walk out the door of TNA. And why that Jake something at one time wasn't TNA World Champion. Or if he was, it was a very short stint with that TNA World title. But how do you let a guy like that walk out the goddamn door? There's your main event right there. And you let him walk out the goddamn door. You're letting other talent go right now on your roster so you can facilitate your company being on AMC so you can afford these contracts. And you just can't do it. Well, guess who can? Tony Khan. He has an abundance of money, and he's going to spend that money no matter how you like it or not. So do I think Tony Khan's necessarily done with signing former TNA talent? Fuck no. No. Absolutely not. Like I said, the Iconics, I wouldn't be surprised if they come into the fold of AEW. I wouldn't be shocked at all. Or other TNA talent that are no longer with the company. I'm sure he's in contact with them. Absolutely. Why would he not be? But as far as TNA is concerned, bro, for those people thinking, oh man, they're back and they're going to be they're going to beat AEW, not a chance in hell, bro. And if you honestly think that, then you're delusional, more delusional than I thought. There's no way. There's absolutely no fucking way. After what we saw last night, the powers that be at TNA should be absolutely embarrassed. It was an absolute fucking joke. Absolute joke. And they should be embarrassed. You guys had all this time to plan this show. Knowing that your debut episode was going to be on the 15th live on AMC Network. You guys couldn't get your shit together by then? This was like 2-3 months in the making, bro. Figure it the fuck out. Like I said, even the production was so bad, bro. It looked like it was pretty much being shot through a cell phone video camera. The audio, again, was so fucking bad. The visuals of the show, the camera angles alone was so fucking bad. Come on, man. Like, what? Like, honestly, bro, what the fuck are we doing here? Seriously. And that's why I can't cover this product, man. I just can't. I can't. It's an absolute and utter joke. It is. And like I said, for those people out there, oh, well, you'll be back next week. Not a chance in hell, bro. No way. No way. No way. It was an embarrassment, man. And they should be embarrassed. They should absolutely be embarrassed with what they showcased last night on AMC. You know what I mean? You had one shot to make an impact, literally. And you dropped the fucking ball, bro. Not a grand slam, not a home run, not even a ground rule double, bro. A foul ball. That's it. I don't think anybody, for that matter, is remotely going to be even intrigued nor interested in watching TNA's product unless you absolutely need it for content. And honestly, for what it's worth, I don't need TNA for content. I have Monday Night Raw, I have SmackDown, and I have AEW. I am perfectly fine and content with the content that I am putting out without TNA. I mean, it's bad, bro. At this point, I was shocked they didn't bring out not only Dixie Carter, but also Billy Corgan. That would have been absolutely hilarious. And I'm also going to say this. I even said that I thought Jericho would be hilarious to show up last night. Hey, Chris, I know you're probably not listening to this, but if you are, pay attention. If I was you, stay the hell away from TNA. Please, bro. If you give a shit about your career, any bit you care about your career, stay the hell away from TNA. Because, my God, bro, I don't even think Jericho showing up last night would have saved this goddamn mess. TNA was an absolute mess. A hot mess. Jericho needs to stay away from TNA. You want to come back to WWE, bro? By all means, show up at the Royal Rumble. By all means. But, my God, stay away from TNA. It was absolutely horrible. And like I said, for those certain individuals out there that are whining and bitching and complaining about, well, you know, those we can't have those critics. They don't even lace up a pair of boots or whatever. Yeah, you're saying that shit to that same fan base that are literally paying for those pay-per-views to watch your product, which is also ultimately keeping your company afloat and making a profit. Right, real smart move. So anybody else that watches a movie or eats a meal, they can't critique the meal even though they're spending their hard-ass working money on buying that meal or buying that movie. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Seriously. The egos on these people, man. Like, get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry. Like, that's an absolute fucking joke. Absolute joke. You got an opinion. Okay, it might not be right, might not be wrong, but you're going to have an opinion about it. And that's my opinion. It's an absolute fucking joke. You guys should, over in TNA, should be absolutely fucking embarrassed. Seriously. Absolutely embarrassed. Because what we got last night was absolutely hot garbage. Hot garbage. And like I said, I feel bad, bro. Oh yeah, TNA is going to be the number 2 wrestling company in the world. No, they're not. And for that, I do apologize. I do. When I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. But my God, dude. Jesus Christ. That was so goddamn bad that was one and done for me. I can't remotely even contemplate investing time and effort into covering TNA's product, bro. I just can't. Because if I do, I'm going to be honest with y'all. If I actually cover TNA's product, you're going to see me complain about TNA every single goddamn week. Every week. And I just cannot do that to myself. And I'm not going to do that to my fan base, bro, because it becomes a broken record at that point. It's the same old song and dance. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to y'all. I'm not going to do that to myself. I just can't do it. We're already pissed off and up in arms about AEW as of late. You think I want to make it worse with watching TNA after what happened last night? No way. No way. There's a lot of shit about TNA they got to fix, and hopefully they can fix it, but it's not going to happen anytime soon, bro. Shit needs to change, and hopefully they can change it soon. But after what I saw last night, I hate to break it to y'all, man, and I do apologize, but there is no way that I'm covering TNA's product. I just can't. There's no way. So, but at the end of the day, man, I wanted to give you guys my thoughts on TNA, what I thought about the show last night. Like I said, I wasn't going to go through a full rundown of the show, just some bits and pieces of the show that I liked or did not like, and honestly, majority of the show I did not like. I just didn't, and yeah, like I said, I'll go out of my way and apologize once again by saying, like, oh yeah, I thought TNA was going to be the number 2 wrestling company in the world. There's no chance in hell that's happening. Not right now. It's going to be a very long time until TNA can even be in a conversation to be the number 2 wrestling company to be talking about. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. There's not. And I know some people were like, oh, give them a chance, man. Give them a chance. They just started up with AMC, They just started out right now. No, bro. No. TNA's been around for a very long time. Just because they're on AMC doesn't mean things are going to be, let's give them a pat on the back and give them a break. No. Nope. Get your shit together and figure it the fuck out. You guys had all this time to plan for this show, and no. Oh, they have visa issues. I don't care. They had visa issues, but they had no problem showcasing Dixie Carter on this show, where this woman almost killed this company and flushed it down the fucking toilet. And the reason why they had her on the show was to reconcile a bad relationship that happened supposedly between her and Bully Ray. Well, no offense, bro. You want to do some shit like that, then you do it in some kind of private setting, or you invite her on Busted Open Radio and you look for a public apology or some shit. Don't waste airtime or TV time where people are watching this shit just to reconcile a relationship that went sour that happened 10, 15 fucking years ago. Give me a absolute fucking break. Seriously. And like I said, people, I don't understand why we're booing Dixie Carter. Because that woman who ran TNA at the time almost pretty much lost TNA and flushed it down the fucking toilet. And TNA almost went bankrupt. That's why people booed, bro. That's why. Because a lot of people that watch TNA remember how bad the company was and how bad in the turmoil they were financially, to the point where TNA was on the brink of extinction at that point because they couldn't financially facilitate having TNA on a syndicated network or pay for their talent. That's why. And that's why it pissed me off, because I can give a rat's ass about Bully Ray and Dixie Carter trying to reconcile a relationship that went sour. That happened 10, 15 fucking years ago. Give me an absolute fucking break, bro. Invite her on Busted Open Radio or do it in a private setting or something like that, or get a public apology somewhere else. Other than that, fuck off. Seriously. Fuck off. Nobody cares, man. Seriously. You want to be a part of commentary for the matches? By all means. Bully Ray had great impact, literally, on AEW. He was part of some great matches, Aces of Eights, all that shit. Team 3D, they had some great matches and great moments on TNA television. Fantastic. You want to bring him in to do commentary? By all means. But to bring him back just to reconcile a relationship that went south or went sour 10, 15 years ago, get the fuck out of here. That's an absolute joke and an embarrassment, bro. You do that in a private setting, or if you want to make it public, you invite her on to Busted Open Radio and see if you get some kind of public apology or you guys can reconcile on Busted Open Radio. Don't waste people's time watching this TNA product. It's already shit to try to reconcile a relationship that went south 10, 15 years ago. Give me an absolute fucking break. And like I said, for those people, I don't understand why we booed Dixie Carter, because she almost killed this company, man. It was in financial ruins. She couldn't afford to even pay the talent. She was not even interested in putting in on a TV rights deal with even Spike TV, or other TV rights deal. This company was going to fold under the likes of a Dixie Carter. Plus, she also had hostility between herself and Billy Corgan over financial situations in the confines of TNA. You know what I mean? Like I said, it would have been hilarious to see the likes of Bully Ray and Billy Corgan and Dixie Carter all trying to make amends and let bygones be bygones on TNA's debut episode on AMC. Get the fuck out of here, man. Really? Really? Come on, man. It's just... And not for nothing, if we're going to speak quickly on the Dixie Carter shit before I get out of here, bro, you've had all this time to reconcile this relationship on Access TV or on Busted Open Radio. You had to do it on the debut episode of TNA just to make amends. Get the fuck out of here. That's so much. It's just, come on, man. Come on. It's almost like you're trying to stay relevant, bro. Who gives a fuck about that? Seriously. So like I said, I was in the wrong when I said TNA was going to be the number 2 wrestling company in the world. Not a fucking chance. And for that, I do apologize. And I take ownership of that 100%. But my God, dude. And not for nothing, I'm also going to say this. It also makes me believe that other people are really extremely hard and pissed off with AEW. Pause, by the way, on that. But it also makes me believe that people are so tough on AEW and criticize AEW so much about the productivity or the creative or storylines. I think some people, including myself, need to pump our brakes, bro. Because after what we saw last night, I don't think AEW is necessarily that goddamn bad, to be honest with you. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, you're glazing AEW. No, because there's times where I ridicule the shit out of AEW, and most specifically Tony Khan. Hell, I did 2 days ago. or yesterday when I did my AEW Dynamite review, when I said that Tony Khan's delusional. I still believe the guy's fucking delusional. But at the end of the day, if we're looking at AEW in its entirety, even from Wednesday's Night Dynamite, there wasn't that many bad matches on the card. Pac and Darby Allin, solid match. The tag team matchup for the new number one contenders for the tag team titles, again, not a bad match. Bandito MJF for the AEW World Championship, not a bad match. The only thing they're lacking is creative and storylines for AEW. And if they had that, they'd be red hot. Nobody would have any kind of, disagreements with AEW or any kind of gripes with AEW. It would flow like water, bro. No one would give a rat's ass about, shitting on AEW because the product was actually good. But after what I saw last night with TNA, and people can say what they want, I think a lot of people are extremely tough on AEW and criticize the shit out of AEW. Because you can say what you want, but AEW don't have that kind of production that TNA had last night. That was absolutely fucking horrible. At least AEW's got the production. Jesus goddamn Christ, bro. Like, what? Like, you know what I mean? No, absolutely not. And like I said, with Santana, I'm a big fan. Big fan of Santana. And I think he's severely underrated. And I'm glad that he's doing his own thing and trying to be a main event star, and rightfully so. And he should be in the main event. Rightfully so. The guy has busted his ass to get to where he's at right now. Absolutely. He's going through the trials and tribulations of everything to be where he's at right now. Mad respect to Mike Santana. And I understand him trying to go to bat for his company. By all means, bro, do your thing. But outside looking in, dude, this company it's not it. It's not. And for those out there, what makes you criticize that or say that, bro? Because I've seen it with other companies. I've seen it from pro wrestling companies. Hell, I've seen it with MMA companies. Don't get it twisted, bro. I know just as much about MMA that I do pro wrestling. We all remember the Kimbo Slice shit, right? When he fought for Elite XC, he lost to Seth Petrozelli, and that company folded within 24 to 72 hours. That entire company folded because Kimbo Slice lost to Seth Petrozelli. A guy that they literally just pretty much picked off the street, and he knocked the hell out of Kimbo Slice and knocked him out. We all remember that shit. Strikeforce, same thing. Same thing. I've seen it, bro. I've seen it with other companies. I've seen it with other sports. I've seen it. So don't tell me, it's just pro wrestling. There's no, I've seen it, bro. Look at WCW. If we're going to talk about wrestling, they get bought out. By who? Their competitor. WWE bought them out. Done. Was it 2001? See you later. Goodbye. You know what I mean? It doesn't last forever, bro. It just doesn't. It doesn't. And TNA is very lucky to be in the situation and spot that they're in right now with AMC. And I'm going to tell you right now, if it wasn't for TNA working with WWE, there ain't no chance in hell TNA would be on AMC. I think WWE 100% helped them solidify this TV rights deal with AMC. 100%. 100%. Because without that working relationship, bro, they'd still be on Access TV, fighting for their lives. Absolutely. But right now, like I said, bro, there's no way I'm covering this company. No way. No way. It was an absolute and utter fucking embarrassment. And for those out there that, give it a chance. No. Absolutely not, bro. I'm not going to sit there and watch a product week in and week out that's absolutely either just miserable or I'm not even remotely interested or intrigued to watch the product. I give a rat's ass about what TNA does after what happened last night. I thought it was a complete and utter embarrassment. So, like I said, I wanted to give you guys my thoughts of last night's show, where I stand with TNA as far as covering the product. I think you guys know by now that's not going to happen, and I do apologize for that. But I can't, bro. There's no way, and just how I felt about the show, bro. And I'm not trying to sound like a broken record or sound like everybody else, but I thought last night's show was an absolute and utter embarrassment. And I'm just no way, shape, and form intrigued or remotely interested in covering this product. But with that being said, though, this is my review of TNA Impact. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.